Try to remember to look at the camera.
Hello, and welcome to another MoneyWise Wednesday.
Hello.
If you're listening to us on our podcast, The Hoot, we welcome you. I'm Andre,
I'm Kelly.
and today we have a really cool topic for you, one that's kind of near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk about side hustle smarts. We had a really cool conversation before the cameras roll, so hopefully some of that gets into this
Maybe
discussion.
some of it.
Maybe some of it, yeah.
Most of it, I think, will make it.
So whether you're driving for a rideshare corporation or you're selling direct sell with multi-level marketing, you're flipping thrift finds, or you're renting out property, or you're doing other stuff off hours like I do cartooning. Your side hustles are everywhere, but what are you really doing with that income? Like
Yeah.
what is the point? And what are some tips and tricks to kind of help us manage that kind of stuff? So that's what we're
Yeah.
going to talk about today.
Yeah, and maybe you're somebody who needs to earn a little bit of extra income, but you don't really know where to start.
Yep.
This might also help you as well.
Exactly, for sure. So we're going to do a little warm up. And if you're watching us live or you're watching us even after the fact, throw it in the chat. But what is your dream side hustle? So you may be doing stuff right now, which is totally fine. You could throw that in there too. But other than your main 9 to 5 or whatever it is, what is your dream side hustle? And if it's weird, I want to know about it.
I'd love to hear that too.
Yeah. So do you have a weird side hustle that you wish you could do?
A weird one?
Yeah.
Or
Or just any side hustle?
Yeah, I'm like, weird would be. Yeah, I think I would really like to be in a band.
Really?
I think I'd like to sing in a band.
I did not expect that.
I could do like a Friday night,
Yeah.
kind of bar scene, or even like
I did not expect
I
that.
don't know. I was trying to think of what could I do.
Yeah, which I should, because you're an amazing singer.
Oh,
if y'all
thanks.
don't know, Kelly has an amazing voice.
Thank you. I do,
So,
and
okay.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
to sing, and I like. I've never experienced like the making music with others
Mhm.
outside of like a church setting or something like
Sure.
that. So I would probably want to be in a band of some kind. Yeah.
Learn something new. Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Yes. If
And
any
you're not
bands
shy.
out, there looking for
looking for a lead singer.
Hit
Yeah.
me up.
Well, that's cool. So
Yeah.
I've kind of done all of my weird side hustles. So I do a lot of stuff. Cartooning is my side hustle for now. I go through phases. Who knows how long it'll last? It's lasted for 5 years now.
Yeah.
I've always been an artist, but
Yeah.
it's going
Well,
it's going
you're
well.
now not just an artist, but you're a storyteller
I am a storyteller.
through your cartoons.
It's true.
Which I think it's hard to end something like that because you're creating
Yeah.
all of these. Yeah.
It
things.
is.
It's cool.
And it's still fun, which is the cool part.
Yeah,
We'll
that's what's
actually
important.
get into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get into that a little bit. So if you have a weird side hustle, if you just have a side hustle in general that you would always love to do, drop it in the chat. We'd love to hear it. So let's start. We're gonna talk about 3 segments today. So the first segment, we're gonna talk about is your side hustle money really extra money? And our second segment is going to be your smart money moves for side hustlers. And finally, we're going to do the best practices and trying to avoid burnout and establishing some long-term wins. Like, what does it look like to be successful, right?
Yeah.
So let's get started. So is your side hustle money really extra money? What do you think? Should you consider your side hustle money extra money?
I think if you're only making money, I mean, if you're making money, only can you say that. If
Sure.
it's costing you money, then no.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
to me, that's the
That's
bottom
a good
line.
point.
You're either making money or you're not making money.
True.
So,
True.
yeah. And if it's your side hustle, it's in addition to a
Mhm.
traditional job that you already have. So it's probably taking what little bit of free time you do have outside of work for other extracurricular things. I think it also depends on your stage of life, because some people, like I know people who have a side hustle that spend an awful lot amount of time.
Mhm.
There might not be, they might break even financially,
Right.
but it's still something that they enjoy doing. So they're
Right.
okay with that.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, our
And-
lights went off. Carry on
lights
while
went
I go
off.
turn
Yeah.
them back on.
And I think one of the issues also is people don't pay attention to the side hustle money, and they treat it like it's just it's not a part of their budget. Like
Right.
it's just this other thing that I do. when it could actually be helping you
Yeah.
in a multitude of ways. Like it doesn't have to be your eat out money or whatever. It can be a part of your actual budget that you combine with your 9 to 5.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and I guess for most people it should be, because it's
Mhm.
why else would you be doing it? Again, unless
Right.
it's just the joy of your life and
Sure.
you can't live off of it fully.
Mhm.
But to your point, how are you putting that money to good work for your life?
Right. And that's a good conversation too. What's the difference between a hobby and your actual like side hustle
Yeah.
income maker, right? Are you doing it like you said because you love it? Like this is just what you enjoy, so this is just what you're going to do with your spare time? Or is the purpose to make money?
To make money. Right.
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 And if your hobby is taking up so much of your life, does it make sense for it not to be making you money? There's,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that type of thing.
Yeah, that's really good. Those are important questions I think people should ask themselves.
For sure. So I think one of the important things is if it's a true side hustle, if the purpose is to make you money, then you actually do have to treat it like it's a business.
Yeah.
So you have to come with it with some level of consistency, professionalism, and make sure that you're holding yourself accountable
Mm-hmm.
and organized
Mhm.
was the word I was
Mhm.
looking for.
Yeah.
That you're actually organized and you know where the money's coming and where the money's going
I love that.
and what it's doing. Yeah.
Which I think we'll talk about a little bit more, won't we?
We will,
Yeah.
yeah. One thing I do want people to be careful of is avoid lifestyle creep. So that's a term we kind of talk about in the financial world when you start making more money. And so you start adjusting your lifestyle in a way that you're meeting that new money that you're making. So let's say you get a raise on your job. So now you go buy a car. So did you really get a raise?
Right.
Right. So just be careful about, gradually increasing your lifestyle based on the extra that you're making,
Yeah.
or the quote unquote extra money
Yeah.
that you're making.
That's a good point.
I wanted to share a couple of stats because I thought this was really interesting. 39% of US adults say that they have a side hustle.
Wow.
That
Big-
was higher
That's
than
a big number. Yeah.
It is, yeah, much higher than I thought it would
Wow.
be.
That's 4 out of 10, almost, basically.
Yeah,
That surprises me.
right.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to think about all the people that I know,
You know
and
what?
how many of them.
Most of the people I know do have some kind of side hustle.
Interesting.
Yeah. 44% that they use the money for essential expenses. So they actually use their side hustle money to pay bills.
Okay.
So whether it be ride sharing or whatever it may be, they need that income to actually
Mhm.
help supplement their bills. So I thought that was interesting. And only 13% report putting side hustle money towards savings or debt. So that means a lot of people that have these side hustles, like we just said, are using it to pay their main bills,
Mhm.
right? So maybe they're not making enough on their typical 9 to 5.
Or maybe they're in the middle of a important goal and they're trying to hustle
For sure. Yeah.
a goal.
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting. Only 13% said they
Yeah.
were saving that money and using it for paying down debt.
Hmm.
So, but we do want to make sure that you make every dollar count and every dollar has a job. We say that a lot around here. When we talk about budgeting, I know we talk about budgeting a lot, but it's so important to give every single dollar you make a job. So that includes extra money.
Yeah.
That includes side hustle.
Every
money.
bit.
Mhm. So now let's talk about some smart money moves for your side hustles. So you want to budget when you're creating your budget. You want to make sure you have that included, even if it's in a separate account. So even if it's maybe a business account or it's just in a separate account on its own, make sure you're accounting for that in your monthly budget.
Mhm.
Because again, that money could be helping you.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to pay yourself first, just like with anything else. You want to save, pay down debts, and then make sure you set aside some money for taxes.
Mhm.
I actually thought I omitted this, but it's right here. Be very careful about how much side hustling you do, because you do have to pay taxes on that stuff.
Yeah, and you need to know what are those thresholds and those
For sure.
dollars for required.
Absolutely. The more money you make on the side, the more it increases your tax burden.
Mhm.
So you just want to be very careful. You don't want to you want to get that sticker shock coming tax season when you file your taxes and
Yeah.
realize that you owe a lot more than you thought you did.
Yeah.
So now we want to talk about when you have this side hustle, whatever it may be, you kind of have to sit down and ask yourself, what's the purpose? Why am I doing this? Is it because I want more flexibility? Is it to increase my headroom as far as paying bills? Is it because it's for the joy of it? Am I actually trying to make more money? am I trying to get rich, or are you just trying to fund your dreams or pay towards a goal or something like that?
Yeah.
I think that's an important distinction to make, an important conversation to have. We're just going to do it in the dark.
We had to move to a different room.
It looks fine. There you go. You see Kelly move and wave. That's why.
It's because I don't like to sit for long periods of time. No, I'm just kidding.
But I do think that's an important conversation to have in the beginning,
right?
To be like, why am I doing this?
Well, and just like anything else in life, I mean, that really should be the question we ask ourselves when we're doing anything, to be honest with you. If it's not enjoyable, or if it's not serving its purpose for whatever period of time, why are we spending our time doing it? Life is too short.
Exactly.
You know, and I know there are some people who have a side hustle that stresses them out, and they're like, why am I doing this? Is the dollar amount that I'm making worth the amount of effort or time away from other parts of their life? And sometimes the answer is no, you know, but maybe they thought that was their only opportunity or their only option. So
or maybe it started off fun.
And then you lost the joy.
Right.
Because it became work.
Exactly. That's exactly. When it becomes more of a business, some people are not business minded or business equipped, or they don't have that in them. And so when it becomes that, now it's no longer the joy that you had in the beginning.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So let's talk about some tips for irregular income. Most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, a side hustle is going to be irregular income. It's not going to be, you're not going to be making a consistent amount of money every month or every week.
Unless it's just a second job.
Exactly. If it's a second job, that's kind of a whole nother thing.
Right. But an hourly, which I guess some people would consider that a side hustle because it's a second job. So
you're right. Yeah. A second job could be a side hustle.
Yeah. Could be just, you know, delivering pizzas. So you're working on shift work or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Kelly, I kind of want you to dig into how to budget and account for irregular income, because a lot of people get confused or stressed out about irregular income. And you're really good at talking about this kind of stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I might be good at talking about it, maybe not doing it. No,
That's a totally different thing.
Just kidding. You know, I think what's important is that you track everything. When we're working with members who are working on an advantageous goal, we've got to really look at data and numbers. And I think when you sometimes set the emotion aside that's tied to some of these things, and you have the data in front of you that shows this is how much we're bringing in, this is how much we're spending, you can really see that bottom line, this is how much we have to pay in taxes. You know, I think it makes it the reality of your situation clearer. So then you can make informed decisions based on reality, not on pie in the sky graphs and charts, you know, so, or feelings and emotions about it, you know, and I think we as a society are really bad at tracking anyways, at doing budgets and really knowing at any given time how much money is in our account other than just glancing at the app, but really knowing, you know, what your debt to income ratio is and what your, you know, those things matter, and not knowing them, you know, we always say a tracked number grows. Like if you're not tracking it, and the other quote I really like is, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. You've got to be able to know what got you where you are in the first place before you can ever have a trajectory of where you might be going.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's simple. It's simple math. It's how much does this cost me to do? How much am I earning? How much do I need to pay back? And well, I guess that's in the cost item, like taxes set aside and all of that. And you know what your bottom line is. And then at the end of the day, how many hours did I put into it? And can I quantify the worth or the value hourly, weekly, monthly, and then make a decision on if I think this is worth my time and effort?
Exactly. I think one of the scary things is some people may be afraid to do that because they realize this is actually costing me more than I'm making, right?
And that's especially hard if you're in this with someone else. Like if there's a spouse or a business partner that you're doing these things with, and you're maybe not on the same page, but you want to keep doing this because it's fun or it's keeping the dream alive, but the practicality is, but it also makes it a little bit easier, again, I think, to have some of those conversations because you're not having those conversations on feelings. You're having conversations on facts.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Because maybe that is the reality of the number, but maybe that doesn't mean we stop doing this. That just means the way that we do our business needs to change.
Sure, exactly.
So it could also, a tracking could also really help, I think, shine a spotlight on areas of just not working smart.
Exactly.
You know, because we maybe we just can work this smart and still accomplish the goal, but be a little bit more efficient. So it's a better use of our time and money.
Exactly. I was literally about to quote you there. Kelly is always conscious about what is the best use of your time and your effort, because that is valuable.
We do have conversations about that a lot.
Yeah, we do, and it's an important conversation to have. Like, because whatever your side hustle may be, it's outside of your normal job. So you are spending your time. Your time is equity, and your time is important. And whether you're by yourself or you're with a family, especially, you're spending time away from that to do this. So that is also a part of your
what do you value? What are you valuing the most? What's important to you?
Because everything has an expense. Even if you don't, even if it's not a tangible monetary expense, time is an expense as well. And so you just have to be careful, track that kind of stuff. And there are tools to help you with that. There are all kinds of name brand tools that you can use, but you can do your own tracking, setting aside just a business budget or a business expense report or whatever it is. I know that sounds intimidating, but it doesn't have to be super like, it doesn't have to be an algorithmic thing that you have to come up with. It just knowing how much you make, knowing what the expenses are. Like, do you have a website? Do you, do you have materials, that kind of stuff? Just knowing what those numbers are and knowing how much you need to make to cover that will help you. Like you said, paying attention.
Well, and I think too, it helps you plan ahead. So if you know that there's an annual cost to something for your business, I'll use the website as an example. Let's say that you have to pay a renewal every year, and you pay that annually, but it's a good chunk of change. If you do the math and just plan accordingly, you can say, okay, we need to set aside X number of dollars per month over here in this bucket. So when that renewal comes, it's already paid for. I'm not putting it on a credit card, and it's not coming off of my bottom line because I've already factored it into my business. Exactly.
Because the goal is to not have to touch your personal money. Right. The goal is to let it sustain itself.
Right.
And you can do that if you just plan accordingly. And you might start off throwing your own money in there in the beginning, but the goal should be for it to be self-sustaining.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that you don't even have to touch your actual money. At that point, you are actually making money. So I have a very smart wife that I like to shout out all the time, because without her, I would not be making any money.
You would just be making cartoons.
Exactly. I would just be, and I'd probably be burnt out. But let's talk about that, right? Because we touched on it a little bit. But let's talk about some of the other aspects of it with burnout, because the danger is allowing your side hustle to creep into your regular life, and especially creeping into your regular job. You never want your side hustle to, unless that's the goal, but you never want it to overtake your normal 9 to 5 and actually like be a detriment to your normal operating. So just be very, very, very careful. If you have a 9 to 5 and that's what's paying the bills and that's what's doing you well, don't allow your side hustle to creep into that.
I mean, too, it's just a matter of what's the word I'm looking for? Not honesty, but integrity.
Integrity. Yeah.
It's just be a person of integrity, and just like everything else we talk about in this in the MoneyWi's Wednesday webinars and podcast episodes, it's just being true to yourself. Just be a good person. Just do the right thing.
Absolutely. You never want people to ever have to question where your loyalties lie. That kind of thing. So just make sure you're being conscious of that. Now, if your goal is to, hey, this is what I want to do with my life, blah, 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 I think those intentions need to be known from the beginning with your employer or whatever. But also just be conscious. And move with integrity. You want to avoid burning out, because you are spending extra time and effort in this thing. And it could take I'm not good at this because I work very long hours on my side hustle. I don't sleep much. So I'm preaching to myself right now, but
Mhm.
just try to avoid burning out, because that does start to affect other parts of your life, right?
Sure.
So I've gotten better over the years for sure. People around me will attest, but I've been known to be up till 2, 3 in the morning working on something, just because that's how my brain works, and you just don't want that
Yeah.
to affect you.
That's gonna affect. I mean, you got to get up for work the next day.
Exactly,
So yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Um, so this is the tough conversation. At what point does this become unsustainable, right? If it is your dream, if it is your goal, this is going to be really hard, because if you're losing money, or if this thing is no longer enjoyable to you, but you feel like you need to do it, at what point do you stop? What point
Hmm.
do you say, okay, I need to either take an extended break, or maybe this isn't the thing I need to be doing,
Yeah.
right? And that can be a tough conversation to have with
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
or your business partner, or whoever it may be. I didn't even think about the business partner angle. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that up.
Yeah.
But you're right. Sometimes these side hustles come with other people, right?
Mhm.
It's not just you. So, think about that stuff. If you're driving rideshare and it's taking you so much time, and your car's breaking down, and all this stuff, at what point does it become
Yeah,
unsustainable?
and I think to answer that question, I know you're not. It's kind of a rhetorical question that you're
No, you're
asking right
fine.
now,
Please.
but or a hypothetical one. But I think the answer to that too always just lies within the individual's boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't. I think the mistake that we make so many times as people is just like searching for the right or wrong answer, and being willing to be open to the fact that there really is no right or wrong. It's just
Hmm.
whatever is right for me right now.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Mhm.
Life is a journey. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
everything that happens to us in life, it where we are right now, we were led from somewhere else,
Hmm.
and we're not stopping here. We're going somewhere else. Like
Hmm.
this is just a part of the journey and the process. And so trying to keep an open mind, not saying don't believe in your dreams. I
Sure.
mean, I have a son who has a dream in his heart, for what he wants to do after high school, and I believe with every fiber in me that he's going to accomplish his dream,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I want him to do everything that he can to get there. But he's also even recognized lately that that might not be what's in store for him. Like there
Sure.
might be, something else, and he's realizing at this stage of life, maybe I need
Hmm.
to have a plan B,
Sure.
right? And he's
Yeah.
coming to that own conclusion as an almost 18-year-old,
Hmm.
on his own, but he's got to get to that on his own. Like I can't,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
I can speak to it a little bit as a parent, but ultimately our path and our journey and our experiences lead us to a place where we go, okay, I've got to draw a line in the sand now,
Hmm.
or okay, enough is enough. I can't keep doing this anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think I think that, there's I guess the plea I'm saying to everyone is to be open-minded to the change if there does need to be one. And
Yeah.
again, it doesn't necessarily mean that the change is stop doing this.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to do it differently.
Or not right now doesn't mean not ever.
Right.
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 For sure. I love that you brought that up, because my life took the opposite approach. So I went to college for art and graphic design, thinking I was just going to be a professional artist, right? The whole time, even because my parents were like, why would you do that?
Right.
Like, blah, blah, blah. So the whole time I'm determined I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to be a professional artist. I'm going to make it as a professional artist. And towards the end of my journey, I was like, I don't see how this is sustainable.
Right.
Like
Right.
maybe they knew what they were talking about, right?
Hmm.
And I'm not saying you can't be a professional artist and be successful. I'm saying for me,
Everyone's journey is
at
different.
my part in that journey, that was I realized for me that was not sustainable.
Do you
Right.
feel like now, though, years later, that there's more of a possibility of it now than ever? Because I see
I
that for you.
think so. I think so.
It just might have taken a little bit longer than you probably thought it would.
Right, but exactly. So
Yeah.
the thing is, my main, what I thought was going to be my main job became my side hustle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
But you did it too
through
because you
that,
loved it.
right, because I loved it, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm able to support my family and still do the thing that I love,
Right.
right? And so just looking back, I don't think if I had pursued it, it would have worked out like
Sure.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just
Good.
it's interesting how life does that to
Yeah.
you.
And then
right?
you've got some stories where you hear people who, I don't know, they got viral on Instagram or something, or some like one video kicked off and then boom, there they go. You know, it's
now
like
this is their life.
so, and that's the thing. I think we all just kind of have this expectation of this is the way this is going to happen for me.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, well, if it doesn't go that way, what do I do then?
Yeah.
You know, or how do I handle that? So.
Putting all your eggs in one basket. Yeah. There are plenty of stories of people who were making YouTube videos or doing whatever, and now all of a sudden overnight they're or seemingly overnight they're famous. That's just not the reality for most people.
Right. I don't even know what that percentage is.
Exactly. It's gotta be tiny. It's the same thing as like professional athletes. It's like what, 3% or something of high school.
Yeah, I don't even know what the
students go to the NFL or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's the expectation has to be
well,
adjusted.
and then the point that you made earlier is what's even the sustainability of that, because just because you made it to a point doesn't mean you're going to be there forever. So that's why like, the people who are really good at what they're doing, whether it's a side hustle or whatever, if they got there fast, they still have to continue to reinvent, right? So you still have to kind of brush up on innovation and staying relevant. How do you stay relevant, right? And again, I think it depends on what your side hustle is. Again, if you're the guy who's just picking up the second job, you know, to me, it's just hang in there, buddy. You know, it's more, sometimes that's the battle, is just deciding to do this, and how long do I do this for? Right.
Yeah. I think another conversation to have with yourself is, what does success look like? And that's different for everybody.
Sure.
Okay. So I'll take ride sharing as an example. If you are using your vehicle to do ride share over the weekends or whatever that is, what does success look like for you? Is it making a profit? So what does that look like? You mentioned earlier tracking. How much gas am I putting in my car? How much maintenance am I putting into my car? The fees that whatever service I'm using takes out. At what point am I making a profit? And at what point is this successful and sustainable for me, right? Am I just doing it? At what point am I not just doing it just to do it, right? Am I just actually making money? And then, do I want to do this long term, or is there a point where I want to be able to stop, right? And what does that look like? And that's something that you need to think about for any side hustle or any second job or whatever that you want to be doing.
Yeah.
Am I using this money to pay down debt? When I'm done paying down this debt, am I done? Or am I going to keep going and do something else? Like what does success look like?
Yeah, I think it's important that people answer that question for themselves, for sure.
And then you want to make sure you're tracking your deductions. Once you start making good money in your side hustle, a decent money, I should say, you really, really have to think about, okay, what are my deductions going to be? At some point, you do have to start looking at, do I need to go with a tax professional to prepare my taxes and not just use free services? Because it can become complicated, and there are ways to minimize your tax burden, and a professional may be the best person to talk to about getting that done. And that's another expense, right? That's another thing to think about. So
yeah, that's a good point.
We talked about when to go pro. When does your hobby become a business? What does success look like? And how do you make it work for you? Are you building an emergency fund? Do you need to invest in educational tools? Like you mentioned, how do I stay relevant in whatever this thing is that I'm doing? How do I become better at it? Real estate is an example. We talked off air about how I have friends that have gone into real estate thinking it was going to be a side hustle because they were convinced by whoever, and realizing pretty quickly that, hey, I actually had to put in a substantial amount of time and effort to actually sell houses and be successful in this thing. And maybe that's not something I can do on the side.
Yeah. You know, the other thing that just came to mind while you were talking is, you know, your side hustle might also be a seasonal one, you know, so kind of being realistic in, you know, there might be a season. I have a member I was working with who worked during tax season. That was her side hustle. But she's done it for years as a side hustle. And so it's that one time a year that's like that extra cushion, you know? So I think being aware of the seasonal timeline and because sometimes I think people might go, okay, well, this year's going to be different. I'm going to make this spring hustle relevant in the fall.
Mhm.
Well, how are you going to do that? Right. And being
Right.
realistic,
Yeah.
unless you change something, history usually repeats itself. So like
Mhm.
what is setting you apart this time that you didn't do before that's going to help you grow in that way? I don't know. It's
Sure.
just being mindful of the realities of things like that.
Absolutely. You just brought to mind, my wife is a teacher, and she obviously doesn't work over the summers. And so she chooses to take on jobs over the summer. So this year she's teaching summer school.
Oh, cool.
And but we have a purpose, kind of going back to earlier topic. We have a purpose for that. So that job pays for a summer camp for our kids.
Yeah.
So there's a point to it, right?
Yeah.
It's not just, well, we have a plan and a point for it. So, but yeah, so what's going to keep you relevant? What's going to keep you um, doing the job successfully? And are you saving for something meaningful, like we just mentioned, travel? Are you using this money to further your business? So, are you investing back into your business to make it more successful? I think that should be the goal for most people, but it might not be. We
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, only 13% of people use it for savings and debt. So, but what are you doing with the
Yeah.
money? What's the point? It could be date money. It could be.
Yeah.
But I think the point we're trying to make is it's up to you, and that's a conversation you actually do need to have with yourself, with your business partner, your spouse, or whatever. Why am I doing this? What's the point?
Yeah.
Again, it could be just for the love of it.
Yeah.
Could be.
And that's okay if it is.
Yeah.
We're not trying to shame anybody here.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. So that's actually the question I want to pose the audience. So if you're listening to us live or whatever, what is one goal for your side hustle income that could help you reach? That could help you. Sorry, what is one goal with your side hustle income that could help you reach whatever purpose you're trying to do? So, what is the purpose of your side hustle? What is the goal?
So what's one goal that your side hustle could help you reach if you did it with purpose?
There
Is
you
that
go.
what you're getting
Thank
at?
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could tell that's
Yes.
what you're asking. Yeah.
I was going with that.
I just want to make sure I understood.
Yeah.
So you're saying like if we like intentionality behind it, a little more
Intentionality.
purpose.
Right.
Okay. No, I like
Yeah.
that question.
Mhm.
Like, and that's just one goal. I mean, there could be multiple benefits and goals
Yeah.
that you could accomplish through it. But yeah, no,
Mhm.
that's good.
Yeah. So just to recap, don't your side hustle money shouldn't necessarily be treated like extra money. You just want it to have a purpose, and you want it to roll into your plan. So we talk a lot about having a plan, knowing
Mhm.
what's going on. So what is the plan for that money? Budget like your income, like it's income that matters. It is income that
'Cause it
matters.
is. Yeah.
It does matter, and your side hustle should serve you, not drain you.
Amen to that.
So make sure you're putting in as much as you're getting out of it, right?
Right.
I think I said that right.
You did.
Thank you.
Or whatever you're getting out of it, just decide if that's worth it or not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I want to be real careful that we're not sending the message that says if you're not getting out what you're putting into it, then it's not worth it. Because if it is just a dream and it is just the joy, and you have the income to be able to pay for that out of pocket and take the loss, so to speak, through other income sources, that's okay.
Sure.
As long as you're honest with yourself and you realize that, not telling yourself a story, that is not valid, really.
Sure. Now, yes, I agree with that. However, if it starts affecting you paying your bills, then
absolutely,
you definitely want to take a step back and think about that stuff. But yeah, if you're able to operate,
or if you're going into debt for it,
if you're going into debt, we don't encourage that.
Yeah.
But you're right. If you're able to supplement that and you're okay with that, then yeah, for sure. If you're doing it for the love, then do it for the love.
Yeah.
We all deserve to do things that bring us joy.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes those things aren't profitable, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But if your goal is to make a profit, just pay attention.
Yeah.
Use the tools that are available. Sometimes we were talking earlier, sometimes those tracking tools, although they have an expense tied to them, it's worth it. If you're like me and you're not naturally a very organized person, then using a tool that helps you be organized kind of will help.
Yeah.
with that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like I said,
No.
it is simple adding and subtracting.
It is.
It doesn't need to be crazy mathematics. It is just simply a list of these are all the expenses that I've paid out in the year. And then a list of these are all the income or sales that I've made. And it's a simple, you're either in the black or the red.
That's right. Or you can ask for help.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a friend or family member that's willing to help you with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For sure. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to add?
I want to know. No, not on this topic.
Okay,
But I'm
go ahead.
curious to know what our topic's going to be next month.
Ooh, the topic for next month. It just left my brain. Oh, the topic for next month is going to be a very juicy one.
Uh-oh.
It's mind over money.
Okay. I'm liking it already.
It's how your mental health affects your spending habits.
Ooh.
And when we talk about mental health,
are we going to go deep?
We're not.
Wait, I'm sending Kelly Merck over for this one. You guys can, y'all can get deep on this topic.
We're not mental health experts. Let's not put that into the atmosphere.
Sure.
But we do know that there are certain ways that we think about money, certain ways that we treat money that have to do with our mental state and how we.
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be real good.
We haven't done that topic before, so that'd be good.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. So get ready. Get ready.
Awesome.
It's going to be very introspective.
Yeah, I like it.
Make you think about yourself a little bit.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like to try to challenge people to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this is a really great topic, Andre. I'm
Thank
glad we
you.
brought this one up because this is really good. I know we have a lot of members who are hustling every day at their regular job and at their side hustle job. And I know that these things hopefully have prompted them to think about things they haven't thought about in a long time or otherwise haven't been challenged to do so, and how they can really bring their side hustle to being something that makes sense and brings joy back and then a great benefit back to their life.
Absolutely. So thank you all so much for joining us today. This has been MoneyWi's Wednesday, or the Hoop Podcast, if you're listening to it on the podcast.
That's right.
And have a great week and stay MoneyWise.
That's right. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.